When it comes to The Legend of Zelda, people, including us, tend to always rank their favorite bosses and dungeons in the series, so we wanted to do something a little bit different with this ranking, and when we realized there were not a lot of Zelda area rankings on YouTube, we jumped at the chance to do this.
And I kind of understand why there aren't a lot of those kind of videos on YouTube. Like, first of all, this is just a very difficult ranking. It's kind of hard to define what an area actually is, and what we did was we tried to think of the larger areas, so a lot of these like areas will have these smaller sub areas within them.
And to be honest, we could go back and forth all day on what
could.
actually makes up these areas. It's just, there's so many ways you can slice and dice like these game worlds that this is what we eventually had to settle on something and go with it.
Now, the theme, the beauty, the characters, and some of the side quests were some of the determining factors we used in this ranking.
Something we tried to make sure we didn't consider was the dungeon that went along with the area, because if you loved a dungeon, sometimes that could skew your opinion of the entire area, so we tried to take that out of consideration.
And as always, remember, these are just our opinions. If you don't agree with us, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to leave your ranking in the comments. If you define an area differently than we do, it's a good chance you'll also have a different opinion of it than we do.
There's a really good chance.
Yep.
If you stick around to the end of this video, you'll actually see our individual rankings, where you'll see that Hick and I also disagreed quite a bit.
And I'm probably going to complain a little bit because I kind of got screwed on this video just a tad bit. But anyways, this is our top 10 Zelda areas.
All throughout Ocarina of Time, there was this area at the west side of the map that we couldn't get to until near the very end of the game, and that just added such a sense of mystery to the Gerudo Valley.
I remember the first time walking into this place, and just the verticality of the place blew me away. It's something that we really didn't get in video games at that time, and just walking up to that cliff and seeing the river way down below, which is an awesome visual.
I also like that up until this point in the Zelda series, we hadn't heard much about Ganondorf's origins, so to finally meet like the gang of thieves that he was the leader of, I thought was a really cool experience.
You know, every area feels different, but I just feel like this area felt so much different than the other areas in the game, and being so late in the game, I thought it still felt new at the time.
And I gotta say, when we first arrive at the Desert Colossus, it feels like we're all the way out at the edge of the world, but just seeing this giant statue carved into the side of the cliff rising up out of the desert was an incredible visual to me.
You know, I wish there would have been more to do, but it was still a very fun place. Iconic Canyon was such a creepy place, and the theme really helped out with that, and it really felt for being the last area in Majora's Mask.
And I just love the backstory that goes along with the place.
Agreed.
Like, it used to be this former like iconic kingdom, and now it's just this like it fell into ruin with a bloody history and everything. Now it's just a haunted area.
You know, that whole Music House side quest, I'm not sure what the real name of that place is, but the side quest that came along with that is one of the more touching moments in the game, and it's kind of cool to see happiness come from an area that had so much death like as a theme in it.
And one of the better like mini dungeons in the game, like I'm a big fan of the ancient castle of Ikana, and especially the fight with the king of Ikana at the end. I love this mini boss
You know,
fight.
I love the cinematics that came along with it also, and just kind of getting that backstory, and then climbing Stone Tower Temple, like it actually felt like you were building to something.
It just adds to a sense of verticality that our fans know we really love when we encounter it in our Zelda games. Walking out of the opening area of Twilight Princess and into Hyrule Field was such an eye-opening experience the first time, just to see this massive area that's so beautiful, especially in the HD remake.
You know, for being a field, like it had a lot of different terrain, like we had cliffs that offer some verticality and some awesome views, and then going along with that, we also kind of got some wooden bridges and just some water ponds and stuff that really added to Hyrule Field.
And we kind of had a lot of different activities that we did in the field. Like you see, we have like the horseback battles.
Yep.
We did a mission where we're escorting a horse-drawn carriage that was something that was kind of unique at the time.
And then like the sunsets and the sunrises that you got with Hyrule Field, just, I mean, I could run around for hours just seeing some of those like sunsets and sunrises.
And man, when you mentioned some of the beautiful views, you got to mention the Great Bridge of Hylia and the Bridge of Eldin, just looking down in like the lakes below and everything with some great, beautiful vistas.
And then how about Hyrule Field at dusk right there? Just one of the most gorgeous views you can really get in the game, in our opinion. I wish there were more islands like Windfall Island in Wind Waker. It's just a very big island with a village, really the only one that we got in the game, and there was just a lot to do.
There really was. Like, there's a good variety of side quests and mini games going on in the village. You have things like the hide and seek with the Killer Bees gang, the Picto Box quest, and I know you mentioned earlier that you're a big fan of the auction house as well.
Yeah, I thought it was just a lot of fun going there and betting on items. Now, maybe that's more of a problem than it is, like, having fun. But also, the theme that went along with this island was just a really clever and catchy theme.
And there's a bar on the island. Any island that's got a bar, we are going to be all-in fans.
I can definitely agree with you on that.
And how about some of the views that we get on this island? Like, whether we're on top of some of the buildings or the top of the windmill, we just get to see great views of the Great Sea and of Windfall Island itself.
There were a lot of interesting characters too, and they were all a little different. It just really added to the whole feel of Windfall Island.
The Dark World in A Link to the Past is an ominous enough area as it is, but once we entered the Death Mountain region, man, did it just take it to a whole different level.
And I think the theme really helped out with that. Yeah, we already had a theme with the Dark World, but to me, this one was just a little bit more terrifying, and it really set the mood for Death Mountain.
And going along with setting the mood, just like the atmosphere here where you've got like the lightning strikes going in the background. If you look down, you can barely see these black trees all the way down in the background. And these pink clouds that at first don't really make a lot of sense, but they seem to fit the area really well.
I would definitely agree with that. And then also, like, we got to explore this very late in the game. I thought that was just fitting. And like going along with that, like I thought this is where Gaines Tower and Turtle Rock, the last dungeon in the game. Well, if you don't count Gaines Tower as a dungeon, like that's where they should have been really in the game.
Well, I just like how isolated it does feel. Like the only way to get here is by going through portals to the light world, and we briefly see it early in the game, but we don't come back again until the very end.
When you're defeating all of these enemies, killing off all these bosses, and trying to save Hyrule, it's just nice sometimes to come to a peaceful place like Zora's Domain where it's just very calm and relaxing.
And the theme fits that perfectly. It's a very soothing, very tranquil theme that it really does fit this area perfectly.
And you've heard Red and I say before, we just both love waterfalls, and then obviously have one right here, and just adds to the whole beauty of the place. And jumping off that waterfall, I can remember, is one of my favorite times in the game.
And it does add some verticality to this area. Like we've got
Agreed.
The waterfall that we climb, and we also we climb the steps up to the throne room, I guess you'd call it, to see the king. It just gives it a little bit of verticality.
But then it gives us one of the worst cutscenes we've ever had in a Zelda game.
Oh yeah.
Just like having to watch King Zora move and taking all that time was just horrible.
And I like the addition of the Zora's Fountain though. Like it gives us a little bit of an outdoor area. Plus it gives us a little bit of story with the Zoras because their deity, Jabu Jabu, is out here as well. The first thing that jumps out to me about the Southern Swamp is just how bright and colorful it is. Like we've got this purple toxic water running all throughout it, the green of the trees in the forest, and then like the reds and oranges sprinkled throughout. The whole area just really pops.
We had swamps before in Zelda game, but this is the first one that we got in a 3D game. It's just one of my favorite first areas ever in a Zelda game. I thought the theme of the place went really well with the theme of Majora's Mask.
And plus it's just a huge area in general, made up of a lot of different parts. Like we've got, the Woods of Mystery, the Deku Palace, whose theme I really love.
Agreed.
And also like the Woodfall area itself. It's just a lot of parts to it.
I love flying around the top of the Deku Palace, and then this little story that we get right here with the king and the monkey was very good, and then also that mountain right there, very reminiscent of Death Mountain, but a little smaller in scale.
And I really like the transformation that the swamp goes through once we beat the Woodfall Temple, and all that toxic water cleans out to make a much more beautiful, clean swamp.
Faron Woods really showed off the art style that Skyward Sword was going with, and for being a very first area in the game, it was just absolutely gorgeous and fun to play through.
I just love how they use the bright colors all the way throughout. It's like the sun's shining, you've got this green forest, which when you combine it with the theme, it really makes it feel like just such a cool, peaceful place.
It's also very happy, like some of the characters that we interact with, they're just very delightful, and I really think that adds to the whole area. And then also we kind of see some ruins, and it makes you think, what did this place used to be?
And I love the giant tree that's right in the center of the
Agreed.
area. We get to climb like both the outside and the inside of it, and it gives us some really cool views of the entire forest.
And then how about the waterfalls in the background that go into Lake Floria? Just seeing that the whole time in Faron Woods, just absolutely gorgeous right there.
And then, man, when we come back to this area and it's been flooded, I love seeing it all underwater.
Agreed.
And I think it makes the area even more beautiful than it was the first time we came and visited.
One of my favorite things in any Zelda game.
Anytime I get to go to the beach, even if it's just in a video game, I'm gonna love the place. And this is the first beach we really had in a 3D Zelda game, so I loved it right off the bat.
I know it's a video game, Red, but if you're going to the beach, make sure you take some sunscreen while you're at it. But like
need
this
it.
place, it was very sad. Like I usually like my beaches to be happier, but for being sad, it went really well with Majora's Mask.
And I like the story of this area where we're trying to collect the eggs to restore Lulu's
Agreed.
voice and learn the song for the area. It's just a very fun, involved story.
You know, like the whole Pirate's Fortress and doing the whole stealth mission, and also the Zora mask. While it did make it hard to swim, at the same time I found it to be very fun.
It was my favorite transformation mask in the game personally, and how about the waterfall rapids just kind of off to the side? It's this beautiful area with a fun swimming mini game to go along with it.
And then Zora Hall, I thought was just very unique for a Zelda game. Just having like a concert hall, and then each of the old bands had the room, really add to the area, and the whole like getting the song from the eggs.
And I loved when we got the band back together when we were finished with the
Agreed.
area and got to see them do their rehearsal for us.
A lot of times when we're doing these ranking videos, we have a hard time deciding what's actually number one, but ever since I played the Lanayru Sand Sea, it's been hands down my favorite area in any Zelda game.
I'm with you, and right off the bat, the contrast between like the ocean that it used to be in the past versus the
Gorgeous.
dead desert it is now just really stood out as such a beautiful difference.
And then Skipper's Retreat, I love the verticality we got, I love the views that it offered, and then getting that whole backstory of Skipper and how he used to be the captain of the sand ship really add to the area.
And I was a big fan of like the Shipyard area randomly in here. It's like it's a roller coaster in the middle of a Zelda game, but the sense of speed that you get when you're riding the minecart was a lot of fun.
I just hope they have a really good workers' compensation program at the Shipyard because you know there's a lot of people getting injured in that place.
And just all the various parts of this area told such a good story. You had the Stronghold, you had the Retreat, you had the Shipyard. It all added up to a fun story in the area.
And then like how you find the sand ship was just a very fun part and very good ending to the area.
If you take a look at our individual rankings, you'll see that we were kind of all over the place. We had the same area at number 1, and we only had 4 areas that made both of our top 10 lists.
And that's really not that surprising because there's so many areas in the Zelda franchise. But overall, I really got screwed on this ranking because only 5 of my top 10 made into the video, whereas Red somehow got 9 that made into the top 10. So I am not a fan of the point system any longer.
Hey, the point system never lies, so I don't want to hear it. I will say, though, it was kind of nice to get away from, like, we've done so many dungeon and boss rankings that it was kind of
Agreed.
nice to get away from that and just rank these areas across the entire Zelda franchise. It was a lot of fun for us to put this together.
If you click on the red sub button, it'll send you to our YouTube channel where you'll see that we upload Zelda videos frequently.
And also be sure to check out our website where we aggregate all our Zelda content and also put up articles about current Zelda news.
You can check us out on social media at the following names, and be sure while you're there to either give us a follow or a like.
If you click on the video on the left-hand side of the screen, it'll take you to our top 10 Zelda games. If you click on the video on the right, it'll take you to our Link to the Past dungeon ranking.
And clicking on either one of those videos will actually send you to a playlist where you can find all our Zelda ranking videos.